watching the clock, 10,000 hours go by. I keep putting in work, the tears are filling my eyes. I swear I've never been tested like this, but this is mine. It's not a matter of chance, just a matter of time. Never look back. If something standing in my way, I always push back. If something seemed impossible, I never took that. Nah, cause now I know better. Can't stop, won't stop, I won't quit ever. The farthest won't take me, the highest fall it won't break me. The blood and sweat is what made me. I'ma get mine, just a matter of time.
Welcome back, guys, to the LCK. This is Joel helping you guys out with the Dick, Dangun, and Bittle segment here, and we're getting to hear what they have to say about the post-match segment. We're now on to game number 3. Of course, after Kingzone did come back after a nice win of their own in game number 2. And it seems like Jin couldn't get the finish off of that game 2, and really saw the cannon doing its work, serving its role, especially with the ultimate coming in from the flank. That was the key plays that really Khan showed up with the cannon today, and see how those plays affected the game. We're going to look at some of the highlights here to see how that all came to be. And here's the first highlight here, and we're going to look at this is where the opponent was trying to get the warding down, of course, and Khan was trying to be a little bit aggressive, trying to come back here. And you see Camille going very deep to make sure he gets the vision down. And this is right here, the control ward being placed right there, deep in the opponent's jungle. And that actually ward survived for a really long time, and that allowed the advanced vision towards Kingzone on the opponent's jungle for the longest of time, and that effectiveness went a long way. Just knowing the kind of the traveling paths of all the champions from Jin Air, who's going to be traveling along that path. Kingzone had very good awareness of where everybody was at the same time. So this was something that was intended definitely by Kingzone, and trying to put that placement in approximately 12 minutes was how long that one control war lasted. So 75 gold to the maximum value there, and we actually got to see Khan obviously trying to going back to the recall for the very first time, and we'll see how that went about. Around 6 minutes. This was he could have actually changed up the spell here. The Ignite actually being put up as the spell. Something that was going to be something kill potential being taken by Khan after that spell was changed. And instead of just getting a solo kill onto the Gragas, they felt like maybe wanted to bring the Sejuani onto the play and try to get basically the fruition comes from all of that does come through. This is right now in the video that we're going to show here. Just right before this, actually the mid lane took a big toll from Kingzone, so this was a dangerous situation where they couldn't get further behind, and Khan was very intuitive of how to handle the situation where the mid lane was having a trouble just a few moments earlier. And this was right here, basically no real movement coming in, and this is right around that ward where they have placed earlier. And just looking for the Yasuo, and even though the Sejuani is there, that's already an advanced placement, advanced positioning for Khan to just go in right away, just getting away with the E, with the flash, and with the ultimate, and just allow basically the annihilation of Yasuo with BDD being able to go back as well. And quick reaction coming from and so on, as you can see, coming from the top of the jungle, but still allowed that easy kill onto the Yasuo and further kills onto the Thresh as well. So gave a huge advantage over the Kingzone at that phase. So this was a situation where they could have been behind after losing a couple of kills in that mid lane. So coming right back, Khan and the rest of Kingzone knew exactly what to do with the vision they had to get the advantage right back to their favor. And we're gonna have to look at some of the videos once again as to how the Kingzone took the win out of that one, and actually got to see a lot of Kennen talks, obviously, and full set basically accomplished here once again from yesterday, as we had 6 games from the last 9, and might just get to another one here because it feels as the fans are just very active on the fact that, you know, the games have been expected quite long, but we'll see here what the Bitto had to say from that to exactly what he wants to say about that one-line summary. So this is one of the bad ones returning back, guys. It's a Korean Halabong. We're gonna have to explain that in another time, but not enough time for that this time. I'm gonna pass back to you.
Thank you very much, Joel. I'm still very confused. I knew it was Korean, didn't really understand much else, and it's going to be Khan that picks up the MVP. 407 on the Kenny. He did a hell of a good job, and I believe that makes Khan our #1 MVP holder.
And Khan is from Jeju. His previous name before Khan was Hanlabong, which is a fruit that's found from Jeju Island. That is what they're referring to.
Ah, thank you very much, Pop. Look at you.
Khan came and he shared his lead with the mid lane. Nice turret dive here that took down Grace, and then from there Grace was basically an intermediate bot. He wasn't able to do anything because he was shut down so thoroughly. One nice team fight wasn't going to spare him from the early game that was a bit rough. We roamed around. We saw pretty much, again, the Shubi on the other foot. Jin Air in a similar scenario to Kingzone in game #1, and now Jin Air's on the red side. So can we have 3 games where the red side team has a significant lead in terms of the early game, and then finds a decent lead and closes it on the enemy team?
Well, if side selection has anything to do with it, should be Jin Air. However, this was certainly Kingzone looking like they were powering up, and I have a feeling the draft is going to be a little bit different, as Cuz, he had a great game as well. Did find Grace at the end of that particular moment in time, but Khan with the flanks, Khan with the kills, and Khan with so much of his team's damage.
On outrun the Ghost Kenny. This is where Teddy decided to use his flash.
Yeah.
There were better times to use a flash than over a Mystic Shot.
Yeah. It's not a lot you can really say about the Swain, but probably knew that the game was running into being over. That Baron buff was very important for Kingzone to close out the match. Now Jin Air, you can see they can feel victory. They had this last time around, remember. It was the Draven game from Teddy coming in game #3 against Kingzone, the last time we saw these guys face off. And now, without any change, it is going to be Cuz retaining his spot in the jungle, and Jin Air not going to switch over Justice, not going to switch in Cacao or anything like that. Let's hop back to Champion Select and see whether Jin Air can do it again, or the Kingzone now have the momentum.
And I expect the big changes to be in the Kingzone blue side bans. Lulu was banned by them, Shen and Darius in the first round. I imagine the Lulu will be ditched, and maybe the Kled priority will be a bit lower on the side of Kingzone. They don't want to deal with a flex pick Swain. No, I do like that one as well. Atlas is, that got a lot of power for Jin Air. In both games, wasn't able to close out game #2, but Teddy, his laning phase on the Swain has been very impressive. Imagine Jin Air's probably going to stay the same. Aatrox, Talia, Nocturne, fast becoming the new red side trio of bans every game.
Yeah, Kingzone now understanding exactly what they will be able to orchestrate for themselves as first pick. Blue side feeling like you have a little bit more flexibility than you may have in the past, but Zoe, going to be a change.
And I think Jin Air have to ban those 3 champions. So.
Yeah, so we don't really need to talk about that. What is the final ban for Kingzone, though, Papa? What do you think?
Depends what they want, right? I'm trying to kind of rack my brain as to the linchpin champion for Kingzone so far. The Shen might be a decent first pick, but it's not an explosive one. They don't want to first pick the Zoe, as we know, and they will ban the Lulu again. So I guess Kled flex pick could still be on the menu. It's not required, but definitely a possibility here.
Morgana still available as well if Jin Air want to pick that one up again. Nova had a great game on it in game number 1. Feel like Nocturne is going to come in here, though.
They thought about it for a long time last time. Are they thinking about it, or are they strategizing about their red side picks? We can't know. Nocturne ban does come out.
Yeah, deciding not to roll the dice this time around. Kingzone was the first pick. It is once again Sejuani.
So how UMT wants to go? Does he just roll back the Kindred in this game, like he did in game number 1?
Yeah, we have to remember that was Swain Kindred locked in as the first pair of champions for Jin Air. Game number 1, however, no Swain available, and whether they pick up that option for Teddy is a question mark. Kindred considered as pick number 1, and look, UMT had a day out on the champion game 1. May as well roll it back here in game number 2. We'll be locked in, and a little bit more time to be taken now on the next pick. We'll see what Jin Air want to go with.
I'd like Morgana here. I think the strength of the Swain Kindred was a flex pick, and I think if you show information, then Kingzone's blue side first round draft gets a bit easier. So if it's not Morgana, just another flex pick, I think. They were really leveraging the flex picks really well. In the first series, this would probably be a bot lane rise, but the Morgana is what I wanted, and sometimes Papa gets what Papa wants.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there was a little bit of a lag in their headsets or something like that as they listened a little bit late. Thankfully got a couple of seconds in and changed
Well,
the
we got some beefy boys.
We do. If this Mundo is going to be locked in as well, good lord, Kingzone will have a hell of a lot of health bar, but no, not going to be the case.
Top lane, maybe.
Yeah, okay. Top lane Camille, potentially support Sejuani, who knows what's going on. For Kingzone?
Well, Kingzone really want to squish people.
Yeah.
Jin Air, you would normally think they would be taking Darius, but the Camille changes things, and you wonder how they'll approach his final pick on the first round.
Certainly, they can pick basically whatever they want here, for whichever lane they're looking at. The Vladimir going to be taken away. Remember, that's definitely a flex pick. That could be going all over the map.
You wonder about the Vladimir. We saw Vladimir from SKT at Rift Rivals be answered by IG so cleanly in that one team fight thanks to the strength of Galio, and that was a really fed Vladimir, just not being able to kill Galio and strong front lines at 20 minutes into the game. So the Kingzone comp is very strong at closing out games between 20 to 30 minutes, and the Jin Air comp, I'm going to say opting into that, but not answering it yet in the first round either. Looking at the bans here, we're thinking it's going to be Teddy's pick on the Vladimir, but won't necessarily be forced into that. They'll ban away the Rakan as Xayah Rakan to go along with the first round. Kind of the wet dream engage comp on the side of Kingzone.
Yeah, sounds pretty perfect for Kingzone. It's been completely ignored. I mean, Rakan was banned as the final ban for Jin Air in game 1. Otherwise, both Xayah and Rakan have been just taking up space on the bench. So, once again, going to be the final ban on red side here. For Jin Air is Jace. Going to be the last ban from Kingzone. Khan's pick has already been locked in as, okay, this would be an interesting one. Grace wanting to go with the bird and does lock away the Anivia.
Kingzone here, will they just take a strong Varus lane, have a powerful lane in the bot lane, or will they show us something different? It's kind of what I'm wondering about. The Anivia, not a good pick at Rift Rivals, 2 games in a row, but a good pick against a lot of bruisers. And maybe we won't be seeing any true marksmen at all. Gorilla, a famous support cannon player, so no guarantee this is praise, but around the world we've seen some bot lane cannon.
Very interesting. That's going to time out. It is the cannon picked up by Prey. Not sure who it's for just yet, as Gorilla might let us know exactly where it's going, but I have a feeling that Khan might just be running it back on the cannon again, and we could be putting champions in some weird places.
Camille could be a support. It's possible, and now we're getting real cheesy. Do we have 2 wizards?
Where are we? There are so many wizards.
I want to see the wizard bot lane. Give me AP cannon and the Zillion, baby.
Oh, what about Zillion Camille for bomb delivery system heaven? Don't even understand how that is going to work.
Maybe praise awesome dude Zillion.
Oh god, and okay, now what's happening? As that looks like we got a top lane Vladimir from Jin Air, if this is actually how it's going to work out. Jin Air don't really understand what the heck Kingzone's doing, so they're just going to lock away an Ezreal for Teddy and say, okay, we'll give him a marksman, give him something with some safety as well on the bottom side of the map and let Kingzone figure out where the hell their champions are going.
I'm a bit worried about the last pick Ezreal because it doesn't have lane control, and I imagine it's going to be some level of pushing lane in the bot. Waiting to see what's going on here. Maybe Gorilla will be playing the Hillsong-inspired support Sejuani. Sejuani Zilean wasn't on the list of things we were considering.
Well, it's at 25 seconds to go. The cannon did end up going towards the top side.
Are they really going to play Zilean Sejuani? They are. Okay.
Yeah, okay, so it's time piggy, I guess. I don't really understand how this lane is going to work, but I'm super excited to figure it out.
It's going to push because
That is true.
Ezreal won't provide too much there. Not necessarily at level 1, but from level 2 onwards, I think the Zilean lane can push. Support Sejuani is coming out, not in a funnel, just straight up as a standard lane. Peculiar stuff from Kingzone, but the individual lanes, they beggar belief. The team comp and team fights is very straightforward. We Goomba stomping, boys.
Damn
That's
right
what they're
we are.
saying. Kingzone DragonX going to be fighting from 20 minutes onwards. Whereas Jin Air trying to make the most of the scenario. Do end up with Vladimir versus the Kennen, which is actually a really strong lane for the Vladimir historically.
Well, we'll see whether it is going to work out here, as I feel like Kingzone have put all of their eggs in the Cuz basket. They've got the Hero's Entrance to go down on top of him, where he's got an extra life from the Zilean Chrono Shift as well. Certainly, he had a great game in game number 2, but is it really worth it to throw everything on the Camille? I guess that's what they're going to be doing.
Has science gone too far? The answer is yes.
Yeah, well, we'll see whether it's going to continue going further for Kingzone DragonX or whether Jin Air's composition is going to win out. Let's get into game. Okay, and as the dust settles, it is going to be Sejuani Zilean debuting their duo on the bottom side of the Rift. Kingzone with a lot of power topside, a lot of AoE CC and Wombo engage potential from the top side. Oh my goodness. That's not AD play.
I like the inverted commas, though. I'm an AD player.
Yeah. Well, he is now.
He's an awesome dude, Atlas, as we well know.
Yeah.
Well,
Very handsome.
as you're kind of alluding to, Kingzone are going to speed up with lightning rushes and Zilean speed ups and flash on top of Anivia and Ezreal at every opportunity.
And then pile 3 people on top of them after that as well, with B2D turning up, as well as a Hextech ultimatum to possibly help as well. So it's a pretty interesting situation here, but I'm excited to see how it is going to work out, especially in the laning phase, as we've got Sohan helping out with a top lane, topside start for Umti.
And so Jin Air honestly kind of has to opt into it, whatever. By hook or by crook, you think these overlapping AoEs are going to happen. The laning phase, though, before we get to the Fiesta team fights, is going to be a little bit more unexplored, as it is, in fact, Zilean carry.
Yep, it's a different one. And that's going to be some extra money going over the side of Teddy, as they do claim lane control early on in this matchup. See whether that does continue. Oh, damn, he's got the shots.
Remember, Zilean is eminently squishy in
Oh, yeah.
the bot lane. Doesn't have any defense tree either, no resolve from Prey on sorcery and inspiration. So, yeah, best of luck with that one.
Well, at the moment, he's going to be standing really, really, really far away from Teddy, which does make some sense. Teddy, of course, taking the teleport, so going back to grab his tier as soon as he possibly can, continue that pressure. Empty, going to be taking this Raptor camp, see whether he can actually get himself towards a Rift Scuttler. Looks like the bottom one is the only option that he has, but the mark was on the top side, so a little bit slower of a start here for the Kindred.
We'll have to go to it before Blue Buff is spotted out by a ward that was placed down early in the game by BDD, I believe. It's going to be the push early, like we mentioned, before Prey starts to get going. I guess you have to go Archangels so you can have a mana item early. I doubt you can lane long enough for Zilean to get a Lost Chapter, but it's possible.
Well, we'll see what Prey is going to decide to do. I feel like we're all learning together when it comes to the Sejuani Zilean lane.
Again, it's the fact that the champions together have a clear identity, but the lanes are so non-standard that surprises us.
Yeah. Every time these Mystic shots land, you get a little bit more worried for Prey and his ability to hang around in this lane.
This will surprise a lot of people, but it's actually Teddy's first game of the season on the Ezreal.
Yeah.
He hasn't been playing it this season, had fantastic performance on Ezreal in spring season, around Fountain Laser time, where he truly justified the name. I believe he had 10,000 gold on an 80 carry before we had funnels and crazy stuff, but basically had 3-item Ezreal pre-25 minutes. He was massive in that game.
Yep, it was like, I think he double Flame Horizon the jungler
He did.
by about 35 minutes.
This was back when things like gold leads meant something. Now everyone's so jaded about those sort of stats, they don't
Yeah.
want to listen about that.
Well, we can stop talking about it here today because we've got a whole lot of awesome dudes on the bottom side and a regular lane here from Jin Air. I feel like it's like those solo queue games where you've got that duo that just want to try that weird thing, and sometimes it's amazing, and sometimes it's absolutely woeful.
Or, if the summoner spells were Clarity and Cleanse and things like that, they would be trolling.
Yes.
And it's been a fine line in patch 8.11 onwards between trolling and tryharding.
Yep, you don't even really know anymore.
Razor sharp line between genius and madness.
Feel like
Sometimes we don't know till after the game's over. We get to be rose-tinted glasses, 50-50.
I'm really glad that, yeah, we get
2020
all
even.
of the hindsight, so don't even worry about it. Like, we're the geniuses in the end. We can just tell you why it worked instead of telling you what they should be playing, because I wouldn't have suggested Zillion Sejuani, but you know I'm going to if they win.
T getting a very important first Drake here. Getting the Ocean Drake at 5 minutes. Happy, happy times for his lane, especially Anivia. She's super stoked about this.
Yeah. 5 minutes on the dot. So once again, going to be a lot of dragons this game.
Double bomb cost too much mana before the first purchase, so Prey is being well controlled by Teddy. And you know Sejuani doesn't provide anything in the lane, so we knew that already.
She wanders around. There's Gorilla just trying to be as many animals as possible, I guess.
She tanks skill shots better than the Zillion. She's got that going. for her.
Hey, that's true. Nice. Wait for that
She might
passive
actually meet
tank
Camille.
support.
This is actually knowledge to Soan.
Yeah, someone's going to come over. That mark was down on top of Cuz there as well, so Umti did want to try and hunt down the Camille, but Cuz is still doing the same thing. It's okay, jumps over, still wants it. This is very strange because the cannon is moving over at the same time. BDD moves up, is level 6. Hero's Entrance is available as some dirty farming is going to erupt from the cannon.
You say strange, I say coordinated. Cannon had the push on, it's AP Cannon. BDD was level 6 as you outlined. They definitely just want to kill Umti. They might get him here.
Yep, he's going to face check. Does manage to get the stun into the taunt. The layering of CC is
Oh.
nice, but misses the Justice Punch. And now Cuz, after flashing over the wall, just has to wait for the hook shot or just get it back.
He's going to get it. There's no way. You can see everyone on the map. The Vladimir's in the top lane. Cool as you like. 6 minutes into the game, I'm recalling enemy base with First Blood.
Sounds pretty good to me. Once again, Cuz, a fantastic performance to start this one off.
I do consider that Umti could have just said, well, this sucks. I'm going to go to the bot side. He was greedy. While it was unlikely for there to be someone in the foremost brush, it was possible. And the follow-up was going to be so insane. And he's re-invading anyway and saying, this is still my house.
Yeah, he's going to be able to take his Bramble back because Cuz did, of course, back in order to get his way out of there. But it might mean that this Rift Scuttler that once again has that mark on top of it is not going to go over to Umti unless Cuz wants to grab something in the mid lane instead. Looks like BDD wants a blue buff. Potentially. Actually would have
tiers.
thought that the Camille would have gone for the Rift Scuttler. Could have been an option.
3 tiers already on the Rift. It is going to be Archangels by Prey, going for the first item tier.
Yeah.
Umti gets, is it his first mark or his second? Maybe second.
Yeah, it looks like second.
Sorry guys, we have very small monitors when it comes to things like marks. Just like we have to guess how many NASA stacks there are, because the Observer overlay since the first day it was released has never shown all 3 numbers.
Just to have to assume what the number is going to be. It's like Prey has to just assume that the minions are going to stay in the right position for these bombs to take them.
Gotta say, kind of being reminded of the BD Kled with the laning phase here for Zillion Sejuani. If you asked me how Zillion Sejuani be in the lane, I would say abysmal. And, you
Look at
know,
that.
negative 30 CS at 8 minutes with no ganks does qualify as abysmal.
Yeah, I think so. And giving Teddy free reign of a lane sounds pretty dangerous. Also, if he manages to catch these bombs, yes, it's going to do damage to him, but he can control where the enemy wave is going to be as well, utilizing that. He's been doing it a
Prey
fair bit, yeah.
just hit level 6.
Empty's down here. True Shot Barrage does a lot of damage to Gorilla. As, yeah, you're right, Chrono Shift available, so this dive is going to be a little bit confusing. Level 7 for Empty, though. They could stay there. Invulnerabilities are plenty on both sides.
Losing bot lane this hard provides an interesting tipping point that we might get to after decides if he's turret diving or not.
Still hanging around here for quite some time. Cuz is top lane, Soan knows. He's going to move away from this outer turret. Kingzone not going to be his heads up.
Need to DPS both the members here. If it's just onto one, it's going to be an easy turnaround. And with the double bomb now getting towards level 7, not going to be a turret dive for Umpty.
Yep, and the ward is going to show them that he is going to back away as well. Walks through that tri-brush. They do wait for the storm to abate, and it does indeed.
8, the magic number. In terms of stopwatches this game, we're getting back to 8 to 10 territory, Atlas.
Should I start getting the counter out again?
We're not there yet, but we're close.
All right, not like the Doran Shields, where it was like 1,000,000 Doran Shields a game.
I do feel like maybe we need some changes to other trees where there's value, so you don't just take stopwatch every time. Speedy could just be dead.
Yeah, he could very, very well and truly be dead. Umpty takes that one down. Third shot, pretty easy. And not a lot the Gargoyle could do.
And I'm going to return to my point that I never got to about where this game is going. Kingzone basically, their draft screams to me, won't it be awesome when we get a team fight off with all these abilities we have on our champions? Not about lane, it's about what the 5 champions do together. We've had a lot of these Galio Camille comps, and we always evaluate them on what does the first Hextech Ultimatum plus Hero's Entrance look like? Because guess what? Those big cooldowns are down. All their AoE, all their ultimates are on cooldown. These 5 champions do basically nothing together. They need their ultimates to be relevant at all. They need 3 or 4 of them to be used at once. What that tells you is, in every other case of the game, they should be losing out. And that means there's a lot of potential here for a Flash or a Sanguine Pool or just some wards making things predictable, disengaging all the ults, and then Kingzone kind of has a bed of thorns to fall back on rather than a bag of riches. So it is actually risky to run a super all-in comp. Usually you have an AD carry plus a wombo comp. Instead they have another person to help the wombo comp and really no consistent damage because it's also an AP cannon.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you've got Jinna who have almost the perfect answer in the Lamb's Respite to delay all of that first impact and then utilize their composition to get the consistent damage after that point.
And they also, you know, wouldn't have felt great about going Ezreal, but at least the Ezreal's very safe against the enemy comp. The laning phase has gone better than expected. Turns out Teddy's better at Ezreal than Prey is at duo lane Zillion.
I mean, can you really give it to Prey that much? I mean, Gorilla is basically a potato.
I mean, somehow this draft came together, and theoretically both Gorilla and Prey knew what each other were playing at some point in the draft, so I think the blame is shared.
Good point. Good point. Second Ocean Drake is going to go down very early into this one. Oh, it's triple Ocean. We're having a very wet game 3 for Jinna.
The good news for Kingzone is it doesn't matter how much gold you are behind. If you press your buttons perfectly at 20 minutes, you might just win the game.
Yeah, true. And if Jinna screw something up, could also be a problem. And what have Jinna been doing most of this season? They've been screwing things up. Papa Smithy haven't quite found too much wins, apart from against BBQ in their last series.
Bizarre.
Yeah, it's a really strange comp.
Weird and wonderful. Saw yesterday Griffin pull off worst draft of the season. I think Kingzone's does something, so already way better than what Griffin did in game number 2. But, you know, it is, if you think about a draft that Kingzone's draft reminds you of, it's kind of the Soraka carry from Bang, so...
All right.
That didn't do so well.
I'd forgotten that one.
That one happened.
Yeah,
Anivia could be in a lot of trouble.
Yep, the flash does come in. Grace doesn't respect it. This has happened before. Goes into the stopwatch before the egg is there, though. And Umpty's going to turn up. Lamb's Respite is available as God Cuz just melted. Gorilla tries to get in there. Remember, this is not a tanky Sejuani. And you know what she does? She dies right into the middle of the team and taken down with the Flash Frost. Grace, that stopwatch timing was about as perfect as you like.
And it's not a drill, Atlas. Jinna just outplayed Kingzone super hard. A lot of ults used, all mismanaged. Trying to turn on to Khan and zone him away, and they want this turret.
Yeah, BDD was thinking about the flash taunt, but
he was only going to get Nova, no one else. They're actually smartly on the top side of the mid lane rather than hugging the Raptor wall. Let's watch the replay. Again, everyone knows what Kingzone's comp does in these scenarios, but turns out going into stasis pretty strong.
Damn right it is. And they had the Lamb's Respite, they had all of the answers available to them, but they didn't need to use them. Just held onto those buttons, cleaned up what was in front of them, and then cleaned up the first turret of the game in the mid lane of all lanes.
And that little skirmish is a preview of what teamfights could look like. Do you kill the person during the ultimatum? If not, a flash, a wall, a turnaround. There's a lot of turnaround here with the utility that Anivia will provide. And 2 times in a row, we've seen the attempt at actually making a team fight or outnumbered fight work from Kingzone, and thwarted pretty quickly by just a stopwatch.
It's a very interesting composition from Kingzone. So far, hasn't worked out, but still haven't seen what happens when Zilean gets to instant wave clear territory. And a Gorilla is theoretically unlocked on the map to be a jungler or something. He's got some Merc treads, but otherwise not too much more, just a Targon sprays. And a broken stopwatch. Soan doesn't want to get that third Mark of the Storm on top of him, but you can see that Vladimir having a great time against the Cannon in comparison to how he was faring in Game 2.
Everyone backs away. 40 CS plus lead for the Ezreal.
Yeah, and this is exactly Teddy territory as well. He just wants to sit back, eat up minions. The rest of his team's doing absolutely fine. He's got the Dream 2 items. He's been sitting on them for a very long time. It could be just a full Trinity Force, a full Iceborne Gauntlet. We'll see where he wants to go with the items. True Shot Barrage going to be invested. Just wants to get himself a back timer. Got pings down onto the bottom side. BDD at least now having some time to farm. But it's 1-0-2 for Grace. This may not be a repeat performance of the Anivia that we saw from BDD at Rift Rivals that just wasn't doing any damage.
I'm just still shaking my head as to how this Kingzone draft came together. I'm thinking about the pick order. Remember, they first picked Sejuani, then took Galio Camille.
I have it written down here.
I don't need to look at it. I remember it. This one sticks out in the mind, it turns out, Atlas.
Yeah.
But if they eventually left with a support Sejuani with all this CC, and she really doesn't do much, Atlas. Really doesn't do much. They have so much initiation elsewhere. I don't think the Sejuani ult's enough, but we're going to have a lot of people bot.
Well, we've got double teleports coming in. It's a bit of a sandwich situation as Khan gets the Dream flank, but a flash is all they needed to get out of the way, nullifying double teleport and giving Soan so much space on the top side.
Meanwhile, Vladimir going to get a free lane for a while. Probably won't get the turret. It's going to take too long. Numbers here, honest relevance, what's happening on the map is Umti just skips over the wall, feels confident enough to go for the engage.
Teddy, this could be a problem. Black Shield is going to eat up any potential CC,
Double
and the skill shots go wide. He's looking for that E to come back up, but doesn't get it in time, and Khan is able to get the pick off. Now Kingzone looking for Nova, and with 4 members down here with a flash, they'll be able to do it eventually after the stopwatch comes down. Meanwhile, Kuz is just going to die in the river.
Well, that was pretty dumb.
Yeah, that was really dumb.
Why is he there? The rest of his team was already cutting off one member. No one can respond to the Vladimir. Don't need to give up a kill there, Cuz. Whoops. Goes the Cuz. He goes down, and Jeanette don't lose the turret. They need to get a turret for all these further kills. Teddy gets super greedy. Actually, Arcane shoots in, and then Gorilla's like, wait, we can just kill him. They definitely can. Nice collapse comes through from Kingzone. But if Cuz doesn't die here, they do set up for a turret, and they can answer the turret with 2 kills. Cuz is so greedy. They have no control over this area. They have no vision. He says la-di-da and instantly dies because he's dumb.
Yeah. That was real silly, and that's a free mark to the Kindred as well. Yep, nothing else to say other than that was dumb, Cuz.
Well,
as our New Zealand brethren would say.
Don't know about what to say about that. Again, even though a lot of misfortune has befallen Kingzone, they still have some sick Wombo. They still can actually layer everything down, and it's really possible for that to happen soon. We're going to get the extended duration onto the Hextech Ultimatum very soon. Khan has hit his item timings very well. He has a lot of ability power, and a double Magic Pen. It's all about, between 20 and 30, can you blow up the enemy team and take the Baron? That will paper over all the cracks. And there's been a lot of cracks, Atlas.
Yes, there
in the
has.
laning phase, in some of the decision-making. It doesn't matter. They have an easy-to-execute team fight, but that's all they have. Again, the fallback pattern is gone. No marksman, nothing other than team fight. But the team fight is very straightforward.
We'll see whether Jin are going to be able to get that team fight or whether it's Kingzone that, like you say, are able to layer that CC together. Kingzone want themselves a dragon. bottom side of the map. Nova's here, spots it all out as Jin Air are able to set up for this one. The bombs are going to go wide as Umti, not going to be able to steal away the Dragon, but can they get the fight? They get a whole bunch of flashes, but not much more than that.
Steal away the Ocean, stop the stacking from happening from the side of Jin Air. A little bit too slow on that play. Nicely done by Kingzone. Prey will fall back. See what his second item is. Might just go utility, like a Shirelia's could be considered.
Yeah, could be a lot of movement speed.
Team utility. Straight ability power is possible. He's got the Kindle Gem, so it might
Looks
be the
like
Shirelia's. Don't really know where else he would go. Protobelt would be sick, but...
Well, what he really wanted was 40% CDR, and certainly is going to get it with the 3 items that he's already picked up that provide him with that. So not bad. That's a lot of bombs. It's a lot of chrono shifts.
It's a lot of speed as well, but
yeah.
Who's running in? I guess Cuz is the one that will go in the front. Kennen probably doesn't need too much help to actually close the gap, but he will certainly be in a good position for his ultimate. Cuz is making a nice map play here, taking down the Rift Herald, and so far, Jin Air is going to take a turret for it. Probably going to be a turret-for-turret trade extended. Zillion had kind of given up on this by going top lane, so it made sense overall.
But if they hear that the Rift Herald goes down, it might mean that 4 members just stay here on the bottom side of the map, try and take down this turret, and it looks like they are certainly going to do that. Shelly's going to cry out in anguish as she gets taken down, but Khan, he gets hit by the bind, and that's a dead Kenny. This pick CC working out real well for Jin Air due to the fact that they have so much dive potential with all of their untargetability and safety. Kingzone will trade, but it's 1 for 2 as far as those turrets.
Khan switched over to Exhaust. Didn't have Flash available, of course, so gone to a secondary summon, and not the Cleanse that may have gotten him away, but hard to keep track of whether that was even an option for him. Goes down, nice binding. Probably going to be a second charge for Shelly as Teddy tries to rush top lane.
Yep, she's at least going to set herself up for it. There we go. A lot of damage onto this inner turret, but for Jin Air fans, it's not going to be a dead Rift Herald from this. Teddy, he's got his 2 items. He's feeling real good. Muramana just transformed. Grace, he's got Zhonya's and Seraph's. A lot of defensive options now for the Anivia coming from the mid lane, who's 2-0-2. Bit of quiet achiever. Here is Grace at the moment. 100% kill contribution for Umti. He's gone Warrior Enchant, despite the fact that this game as well, things haven't been going too badly, despite getting caught in the jungle.
I'm a fan of the Warrior this game. Again, Blood Razor if you can chase, if you're hunting, if you have winning lanes, I think that is strong. You're against a Wombo comp, so you're not going to be getting 3 rounds of Qs off. You're going to either die or kill before that's happened, so prefer the Warriors for a bit more upfront burst. I like the build from the Vladimir as well. You already talked about how Anivia had gone double defensive utility. We have a defensive item on the Vladimir. We almost never see a Banshee Veil, but it's another item so he doesn't pop in a team fight instantly. And with enough items, he'll do some killing of his own. And speaking of killing...
Yep, Teddy may just die to Khan here. Does have a stopwatch available, but that's a stun being set up. And Kingzone, they invest the teleport, the ultimate, and Teddy somehow survives. Doesn't have his flash, doesn't have his stopwatch, but still feeling okay.
Still, the stopwatch being down for what Kingzone want to do is pretty big, Atlas, because when that next ultimatum play comes in, there'll be no stasis if the person who's getting ulted by Camille is Teddy. So that's a pretty big win, even if on paper it doesn't sound massive. Jin Air looking to cut Cuz, but he's going to be able to get away.
Feeling frisky.
Baron control here is with Jin Air, and so on is very powerful, so I think it's probably the right way to be thinking. They are much more confident than you might imagine at this place, but we've talked about it a couple of times. Can't baby the point. Doesn't matter if you have a 4,000 gold lead. If Kingzone get their Wombo up, it's pretty unanswerable at this point in the game.
Well, Jin Air setting themselves up for the siege. The wave clear is phenomenal from the Zillion at this stage of the game. His Shirelia's, like Prophet Papa just alluded to, is completed, as well as that Seraph's Embrace, so he's got a lot of movement speed, got a fair bit of AP as well, so these bombs are really starting to rip things through, but is it going to be enough as Khan is on the bottom side?
No TP wards for him to actually come for a flank, so they'll probably greed for this last hit. They get it. Now they have very extended lanes. 5 turrets already taken, and you might say that sounds like a lot for 22 minutes. It certainly is, but we kind of alluded to this earlier. Kingzone have a Wombo, but when they don't have all their pieces together, everything is much, much weaker than the sum of its parts. And that's why in the fallback patterns, Jin Air have just taken turrets where Kingzone have been frustrated trying to take their own.
So it's sort of like a Megazord composition, is that what you're saying? To go back to the Power Rangers references?
I can't tell if it's a real one, like a legitimate one, or whether it's the one you order on eBay for the suspiciously low price, and it's not as good as you thought.
All right, yeah, so it's one of the build your own, see whether it works out.
Let's just say options. They either got a sick bargain or they got fleeced by Jin Air.
Oh, no. Well, still got time to figure that one out. 23.5 minutes into this game. The Baron buff could be the place where we're going to have this battle. Rapid Fire Cannon completed for Umpty before he goes towards the Black Cleaver, which will be coming in next. Ruby Crystal there is going to give that one away. Trinity Force not done quite yet for Cuz. He's been farming up well. Did help out with that first blood yet again. It's a different build here for Khan. Had to build the Morellonomicon. Not going to go full gigantic damage on the cannon.
Rapid Fire Cannon a big favorite on the Kindred because Kindred has attack range scaling, and that does scale with the Rapid Fire Cannon. The longer your range, the more bonus you get from the Rapid Fire Cannon. Haven't seen the marks for a while. You and I should keep our eyes open to see if he's above 4 this time.
Oh, did we see it for a second there? No, he was just marked by the Kindred. We're not on the Kindred just yet. Umpty.
Give him some time. Give us some time. We'll get there.
All right. Try and keep my eye out.
So QSS done on the Ezreal, and he has his 2-item spike.
Yeah, it's a good time to be Teddy, but he's been sitting on these items for quite some time, if I remember correctly. Now moving over towards this Cloud Drake, Jin wanting to augment the 2 that they've already got. With the Ocean variety with a cloudy one.
And if there's 5 people there, then you run away. If you're Jin, there's no one there, so it's a freebie.
Yeah, a little bit of a scary position here for the Morgana as Cuz is just going to jump on top of her. Soul Shackles comes in, stopwatch not available because it was broken. And that is a very free kill. And once again, some more just positional mistakes. This time not on the side of Kingzone, on the side of Jin.
It is reckless aggression, but Nova dying isn't really a huge deal. And also there's no ability for them to turn onto Baron because they don't have any Baron damage at all. So it's not actually that big a concern. If that was bot side around Drake, it would be a big play. But unfortunately, they use a couple of their tools. They don't have any ability to kill the Baron, so it's just a kill to the side of Kingzone.
Yep. Okay, so just not sure what Kingzone does next. Oftentimes we're here talking about, you know, what are the win conditions? How have they set themselves up to get here? They're 5,000 gold behind. They've been looking for this Wombo, but is it just too easy for Jin Air to deny that from them? They did manage to get the pick on the Morg, but I feel like that doesn't even mean anything good for Kingzone. It just means that they can't pick off anyone else for the next few minutes.
And the Camille Galio comp is called easy to execute, and those 2 champions together are. But you think about how teams won with that in the LCK so many times, Atlas. It was Camille Galio did their thing, and that bought space for the marksman to do damage. That was the zone control that allowed somebody else to leverage the strong burst and zone control those 2 provide. This is just Camille and Galio. This feels like Camille and Galio got buffed and were both OP at the same time, and now they're really, really strong. Because yes, you have a very strong AoE Wombo comp, but they don't have the marksman, they don't have the fallback. If they don't do it at the precise time, like we saw with the pick on Morgana, it doesn't actually move the game forward for the side of Kingzone. That's the awkward part about this draft, is when are they going to get the pick they need to take a Baron? But now at least Jin Air being a lot more judicious about their movements than they would against a different team comp.
Well, I guess now is the time, Papa. They've got the Trinity Force on the Camille, who is theoretically going to be doing the majority of the AD damage. You've got a couple of items on Khan. His Spellbinder has been completed. So if they want a Wombo, should probably get around to doing it relatively soon before Jin Air get all of their tools online as well. We don't know where Teddy's going to go. He might be building another tier after this. Or might just be heading straight towards Blade of the Ruined King.
Maybe even a Hex Drinker would be very strong here. I actually like a Hex Drinker on Teddy. He needs to just not die in the initial burst. I think the moment he kites back, the moment he can Arcane Shift or Flash, he'll be fine. Gonna go with the Vamp Scepter, so maybe Bloodthirster. Blade of the Ruined King's pretty standard. That's what most people would build here. I think it's fine, but I personally would prefer just a bit more utility. I think the team has a lot of damage together, and they have the damage amp from the Vladimir, that you don't have to get 3rd item Blade of the Ruined King, like you just plug and play in every other build. The Morgana has a very crucial item of Zonia's to not just be popped by the duo that we saw last time happen, so needs that for both defense and offense. Jin Air just need to not make a big mistake around Baron. If they stay on Baron too long and then the Goomba Stomp comes in, then they've definitely played into the strength of the enemy. But if they play multiple lanes, if they get a pick themselves and then can disengage off ultimates, then honestly Kingzone have very little bark behind their bite.
Thing is as well, if Jin Air get the right opportunity to bait Kingzone, to throw everything into that fight as well? I mean, I feel like Hemoplague after a Lamb's Respite has eaten up a lot of that aggression. Could be a really good way of answering it, even if you just play what Kingzone's game plan is.
I understand what you're saying, but you know, in that version, if you're thinking of Lamb's Respite as an AoE KL ultimate, absolutely. But because everyone falls low, there's so many AoE threats on the side of Kingzone that you just might die after you get the 200 health and invulnerability run out. So I think the turn is trickier in that scenario. I think it has to be more proactive, and Hemoplague, if that forces out a defensive Hero's Entrance or a defensive
well, once again, Nova's Soul Shackles could be huge in that moment as well.
You want to get them to use one of their wombo tools defensively, then you've got a budget wombo. That's not something you can allow to happen when you've indexed so heavily on the burst. So Jin Air just looking to walk up. Even a pick on Gorilla would be big for them, trying to control the Baron area. Jin Air have struggled this season at actually picking up Barons when they're ahead. This is one of those scenarios, and this is definitely a comp you hesitate at rushing Baron against, but at some point you have to be proactive, and we'll see if Jin Air can do that.
Well, they got a lot of consistent damage with this 4-man group that they have, given Grace is the Anivia, just puts down the Glacial Storm, doing ticking damage to the big purple worm. Their ability to move in between these lanes is huge, and look at all of the vision they have. I feel like if you're going to go for it, you probably want to go for it here, as Kaz, the hookshot is going to get him out of the way, the wall not enough to disengage or to interrupt.
Can't see if there's a control ward on the pit. I believe there is not, and there's one piece of vision. There is now, so all vision removed. Now Kingzone have to take some risks. You look at the enemy team, they have a good speed on Baron. Nova's spotted, so they know it's unlikely they're on Baron.
That ward not known about just yet, as this control ward might actually be given up from Jin Air as another blue trinket goes down. The Vladimir split pushing, so they know this is what they want, as Teddy, very aggressive, wants to find Kaz, gets another one, gets the flash actually. True shot Barrage, where is it?
I think you have to make a zombie attempt here with the Wombo. Kaz out of the fight, certainly trying to use red buff to get the health back up. Crucially, Jin Air haven't started the Baron. They don't want to get squished.
Well, you can see Teddy just playing frontline Ezreal right now as Umti's going to move over. They're still trying to get rid of vision. I feel like they could have started on this, but the Vladimir is just on his own on the bottom side, having a party. No one else is invited, but this is exactly how he wants it.
The BD will come. That means he can't Hero's Entrance. Part of the Wombo's not there. How will Jin Air react? They should see that Galio is out of position. This is the time to start the Baron. They're still continuing to play around it. They're so afraid of being caught in a massive slicing maelstrom. But they need to do something. They're looking for the catch.
Well, Binding is going to land here. It's onto Kaz, and that's exactly who they wanted to land it on. Good stun comes in. Hero's Entrance comes down on top of him with the Chrono Shift, but that's the Wombo engage done, and Jin Air should be able to move forward with their regular composition. Still just buying space for Soan, who's also able to create pressure bottom side.
And this is illustrating what we talked about, how everything other than the Wombo is stacked against Kingzone. They can swift push, no real answer. They can look for a pick. They have to use the Wombo to disengage, and thus the threat is lower. Jin Air can walk up so confidently. There's no threat.
Yeah, they've jumped on top of Kaz. Does he have anything more? He's got another Chrono Shift as Prey throws out it yet again. He's got 40% CDR, so it's pretty easy, but he didn't have it that time. Not after 3.5 seconds of being alive. Khan looking to do his best Smeb impression. Does do a lot of damage, but Hemoplague also able to get some work done. Lamb's Respite comes in, and so on. Gets rid of Khan. Jin Air, GreenWings decimating the fight because Kingzone couldn't get the Wombo engage that they wanted.
Can't put all your tools together. This is what happens. Prey gets the perfect second Chrono Shift. And even with 3 lives, Kaz will go down. They turn onto the Baron. There's no ability to stop this, and they want an inhibitor as well.
Yep, teleport's going to come down from Teddy as well. He does a lot of damage to these structures. We'll see whether he can actually poke down the Nexus turrets as well now with Baroned up minions. Thankfully, Prey gets there. Baron is going to get taken, and Jin Air, 10,000 gold is the lead. It sort of snuck up on us, but they are trashing Kingzone this game.
And watch the replay, confident to walk forward. Kaz is backing in a really risky spot. He may have been around control vision. That's the second Chrono Shift that was used onto Kaz. And from here, we have teleports. Umti just cues away from the Sejuani ultimates. Gorilla on the Sejuani, not a traditional Sejuani player, of course. And from there, some of the Wombo comes off, but not all of it. because a lot of it had to be mismanaged. Remember, the Hero's Entrance was used on the corpse of the Camille earlier in the piece. Just long and sloppy stuff from Kingzone because they're behind. They're not trying to play Camille Galio from ahead. They're way behind in this one. Now compounded to the tune of a lot of gold. And for Jin Air, breaking the base is all that's left.
Yeah, and so on, using the teleport really, really nicely in that fight as well. Made sure that he had as much pressure bottom side, didn't throw out the teleport too early, that we've criticized a lot of top laners for doing. Instead, teleports in exactly when the fight is going to break out. Now he's got a sweet hat, a sick cane, a really nice little talisman there as well,
now he's
and
a
dash
monster.
cannon. He is so big.
He's really huge because he's been able to pick up minion waves while the rest of Kingzone was setting up for Wombo. Another thing that will happen when you have only a combo comp here. That's what we see from Kingzone.
And I guess the question that we come down to now, if this composition isn't going to be able to somehow find its way back in, is this comp worse than what Griffin showed in their game against Gen G?
No, because Griffin's comp together as 5 did nothing and was hard countered by the enemy comp at every point, so no.
Okay,
but
okay.
It's probably still worse for me for Kingzone because honestly, they've been caught being fancy. This is a really fancy draft. Oh, where do all the pieces go? Look over here, look over their sleight of hand. The end result is, together, it's kind of rubbish, Atlas, and you have to think that if you're Kingzone against Jin Air, surely you can just play standard and beat Jin Air. You're some of the best players in the world. Instead, they're getting fancy, trying to do all sorts of cool stuff, and they're probably just going to lose to Jin Air GreenWings.
Yeah, meanwhile, Jin Air are just doing normal stuff. They've got Teddy with about 1 billion farm. They've got Sowan on a damage-dealing top laner and Grace able to sit back, clear out waves, and control the battlefield. And there's even a Guardian Angel on Umpty, who had a great performance on the Kindred in game number 1. Maybe needed a little bit more respect. He's able to dance around and break open the base. The Baron already reaping the rewards for Jin Air. 12,000 gold, now the lead. 4 dragons. There were 5 this game, but 4 once again stacked up on top of Jin Air. Inhibitor's going to go down. Kingzone, they need to try and find this Wombo. They've got the buttons ready,
well,
but they don't have a cannon.
Yep, cannon's out of the fight. Here goes the Inhibitor turret. At some point, someone's going to have to flash in and make something happen. Otherwise, we might just see a BBQ situation of watching your own demise in front of you.
Yeah. And now imagine if Gorilla was on Alistair or something like that. This Sejuani's really feeling out of place. And yes, it was the first pick from Kingzone. They tried to flex it. Oh, it's just a real worry with how this draft panned out and with how the play panned out throughout the mid-game. Kingzone just look like they're a team that doesn't necessarily know what they can do at this point.
They're a team who come in 7-2. It's a very good first round robin, but Atlas, they've actually already lost more games in summer than they lost in all of spring. In all of spring, they dropped 7 games. They're at 8, and it could be 9 if they lose this game. It's been a very different season for them. Coming back a bit philosophical after a Rift Rivals where they kind of accelerated their own demise. In a lot of the neutrals' eyes, the Kingzone fans will still love Kingzone for good reason. Great personalities, a lot of great individual players, but the neutrals now say, well, you choked on the international stage too many times. Yeah, it's just so quizzical to me why this sort of a draft, because why couldn't we just have a standard bottom lane? That would have been fine.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we have Sejuani with a strong laner like Varus, and then at least the Sejuani's baby through the laning phase and you're not losing 40 CS to an Ezreal. There's a lot of other things they could have done, but what they ended up on was something that you imagine they haven't scrimmed too many times, and now we just get this desperate feeling, both about Kingzone's season, which we shouldn't. They'll be 7-3. They'll still be top 3 after this game, and yet you're thinking so much about what could have been, both at international events and suddenly in just regular season matches against Jin Air.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back to the draft, wondering where, you know, the confusion sort of came out, because it's the Camille pick that's standing out to me. But I digress, as Jin Air trying to siege down this Inhibitor on the top side of the map. Pings coming in from Jin Air, wanting to clear out the mid lane. Teddy just wants to kill minions, kill structures, get the second win in a row for Jin Air GreenWings after 8 losses consecutively. So it would be huge for them.
Closing the game is difficult for Jin Air because you really do opt into the sort of defensive terrain that Wombo is going to do so reliably a big number on. Finally take down this third Inhibitor. There's going to be one respawning on the bottom side.
Yeah. Hip's going to go down. JAG GreenWings will be able to get their way back out, though. Elder Drake in about a minute. And then a couple of seconds after that will be the Baron buff as well. So they could just come back with some new big ol' neutrals and take down this game, because these inhibitors will be keeping Kingzone busy inside their base.
They know Cannon's there.
Yeah, well, he's going to try and flash in, get some work done, but he explodes. Hero's Entrance is going to deliver another kill over to Jin. Does get a Justice Punch, gets a knockup, but that's a GA, and that's a very dead Galio. I think Jin understand what's going on here. They try to do whatever they can to get the desperation engage, but Kingzone know that it's all just a matter of time. Jin will take down the last inhibitor. They may not need Barons. They may not need anything more. As So-On just dives forward. Seraphs, is it enough? No, it's not, as So-On just pops him with the Hemo Plague. This Vladimir is so damn big. It's a grin, a sly grin on the face of Prey, but this is going to be the 2-1 victory going over to JAG GreenWings, their second in a row, and some reinvigoration for the Glad Plane.
They look so happy as well, so relieved at JAG. Coach Han comes in for the big high fives. JAG GreenWings, that's another step towards avoiding relegations, which will be so important for them in the summer season. A 2-0 week for them that no one could have seen coming. While we did not see Kingzone fall like the rest of the Rift Rivals teams, they do fall on the same week after their second match back by going down to Jin. We saw Prey's face full screen. You know why, Atlas? He had ult up and didn't get the calculation right. Cillian's a squishy champion. The enemy, Vlad, had 6 items. And that was just the underscore on what was a desperately poor series from the side of Kingzone. No one needs to pile on. No one needs to tell them. They know it already. Team looks pretty despondent in the booth. This does not count them out of playoffs. This team could certainly still be LCK Summer Champions. But this week, and the last 2 weeks since Rift Rivals started, another stark reminder of why Kingzone don't have that same bulletproof name that SKT did in years past, that maybe even that Kingzone did before they went to MSI.
Seasons past, yeah.
You can definitely see the difference in Kingzone DragonX pre-MSI 2018 and post-MSI 2018.
Yeah, it's a real sad time for Kingzone. Looking over the JAG GreenWings side, I know you, Papa, have been pretty upset that you've been sad planning every single time we've seen this team. This is a glad plane moment for a team that has sort of found its stride, finally, on the 8-11 to 8-13 stage. Feels like So-On had a bit of a day out today as well. Both of his performances, the Gragas and the Vladimir, were nice, but Umti really stood out to me in the victories that JAG were able to show us. Did look very, very strong.
I said it yesterday about Griffin's Game 2 comp. I'll say it today. Sometimes, especially in a match like this against JAG GreenWings, who 2 days ago had won 2 games, 2 best-of-1s the entire season, just keep it simple, silly. You have some of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
Play a normal comp with a marksman. Play the Swain, I guess, if you want to play something crazy in the bot lane. Instead, they do a comp that loses unless they hit the wombo, and then people get caught, things go against them, JAG makes some good plays, and they lose Atlas. They lost to JAG. It's not going to be the end of the season for them, but very well-deserving victory for JAG GreenWings. You only beat what was put in front of you, and honestly, they made a lot of smart decisions, splitting up the wombo, playing around side lanes, getting a huge lead onto the Vladimir. Pop goes the Zillion, pop goes Kingzone DragonX, and congratulations to Grace, whose walls and Anivia play was excellent.
Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic. 4-0 and 6 on the Anivia, game number 3. Once again, able to make his family proud, who are now sitting here with us in the Soli Stadium. Looking real good. You can see playing this Anivia just beautifully. We didn't catch the start of this when we saw the fight, but we certainly saw Umti turn up and destroy BDD. And this, the poise, the precision, the timing.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very nice turnaround, and we saw some pretty ordinary Anivia play at Rift Rivals, so nice to see it here. And be a reminder, I actually talked to some Korean pros who said maybe we won't see any more Anivia after 2 losses in a row in that final best-of-5 against the LPL, but situationally, a great champion, and if the enemy team has to combo, 1, 2, 3, like you're playing a fighting game, the wall screws off the timing, sometimes the setup. This was where Kuz decided to give kill and a mark over to Umti. Perhaps not the best decision he ever made, but...
And here it is again.
Well, this is where he died 3 times.
Yeah.
Not all of them reflected on the KDA. But none of these Zillion ultimates were used proactively. It wasn't Cuz diving in and 1v1ing someone, then being revived. It was all emergencies. Even some of the Kennen engages had to be emergency. I like the Ghost from Khan. He switched over to it a couple of times to get the ults off. But they had answers, they had stasis. By now they had Guardian Angels. A well-deserved victory for Jin Air.
Yeah. Just executing on a regular composition. A lot of it, you have to say, came down to, you know, these sort of moments where Kingzone tried to put this comp together that was real fancy, the way you put it, Papa, and it just really didn't pay off. They got to a late game that they realized they couldn't execute.
No.
Just straight up. So congratulations to Grace, able to pick up the MVP, and now congratulations to us, because we get to have back-to-back Jin Air GreenWings interviews, and we get to hear from Joel. So take it away with the translation.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Joel with the interview translation, and Cloud Plane is still in the air and have not fallen, and take another game here, this time against a very strong Kingzone DragonX, and we're gonna have an interview with Grace and Teddy. Of course, yeah, Grace, it was a tough game for you guys. Kind of see it in your expressions. Just say hello. Just introduce yourself. Jin Air, mid laner. I'm Grace. 200 points out for today's games, and you're over Teddy, actually. Teddy, you died too many times today. I guess I did, but even if I die, we got the win, so I feel pretty good about that. You know, just kind of jokingly, do you feel like you just have to carry to get the win here? Sometimes we don't like to think about it, but yeah, I think I do. Same with Grace. Your family came here to watch today and of course support you, and I'm sure that you guys wanted to win a lot more. Be a lot more supportive, I'm sure. You know, last time around they came and we won, and they're here again. So we won, and maybe this could mean something here. Maybe hopefully for the next game, hoping that you guys come out a lot more often. I mean, the picks and bans were absolutely just crucial in the ways that you guys have wanted to take the things that you want to take. Did you feel like the picks that you brought out today were the very practiced ones today? Yeah, I just don't get it many chances to play that today, but you know, when I do get the Renekton in the mid lane, I knew I was going to win out on that one, and I didn't get to practice that much, but I still had confidence in it. But it was a long-term practice, I'm sure, for you. But and did you feel like with Kled obviously in there, you know, with the Renekton, how did you feel about you? The way that you pulled some really great plays off was an interesting thing, but how the bot lane kind of went about was the important thing as well. With Jin Air, obviously, it has been a surprising play in terms of it became a little bit difficult, but how was your kind of executions in terms of how you can rate that? I mean, our support played the Morgana and had that 2cc and had a tough time with pushing the lane, but so I was kind of surprised that we actually won the lane later in the aspect. And regardless of what Kingzone wanted to bring forth today, it seems like Jin Air definitely had a plan coming in. But let's look at some of the highlights here to see what topics we get to talk about here. And this was Renekton just coming in just ruthlessly. I mean, mid laner, if you have someone like that in playing Renekton here, it makes it difficult. And that's something that we kind of usually ask out of the top lane, but get to do it yourself as a mid laner does feel a little bit different. It can be a very easy way of thinking about it. It definitely adds to the team fight composition. And did you feel like the two things that you got the MVPs with today, did you feel like Renekton and also with the Navia today? I think if you just look towards the team fights a little bit more importantly, that gets you the better results most of the time, and just making sure that, you know, with Navia you have to think about the team fight being behind the lines to make sure that you get to keep putting the damage on. And that's why it becomes difficult for ADC and also a mid laner that has to be changing their playstyle so much, and you guys do a good job with that. you feel like you have a difficult time with that? I mean, the more and more I practice these unconventional picks, it becomes a lot more easier, but it definitely makes it a little bit harder to play with the melee champions for sure. For the mid laner, you talked about putting that initiate on yourself, and let's look at some of the plays here and see how that all transpired. And this was when he had to back away from being in the front line. Did you feel like you were about to survive here? I knew I was going to survive there, but didn't know about the re-engage, and I had to just make sure that, you know, had to go back and try to put in much damage as we can. Of course, the bot lane cover was really quick on that one. I mean, he was putting the stopwatch on, so we knew that we had to go on right away. Now, I knew that they were definitely absorbed into Grace there, so we were pretty happy about that. And on that attempt going for the Baron, and we were actually seeing the going for the bot lane turret instead. And maybe ask yourself, Teddy, how'd you feel about the decision? You know, I didn't know what to do, just all alone there, and I had to just go for something there. Well, as a team, and hasn't been the greatest performances recently, but you know, the coaching staff has worked really hard. Now you guys are preparing hard now to get these wins here. And do you feel like some of the things where the coaching staff wanted to do? I mean, the coaching staff seem pretty excited about your wins today. Look at it here, and just an example of smiling faces for sure, but super happy. Coaching staff and also with the players as well. I mean, it's been a long time since we beat a tough team, so it definitely has been more emotional at best. Teddy, how'd you feel about that then? It's not about beating the strong team, but I think just getting consecutive win was the most important thing for us today. I'm sure the experienced players will lead the charge on that one, but now we do want to talk about the picks and bans a little bit more. And Teddy, when you don't play the Israel as much recently, and you went with the kind of the Vladimirs and swords, and someone wanted to play the Vladimir, so I guess the next thing I had to play was the Israel. So I mean, the history kind of repeats itself that you can never be sure away from playing the Israel. It doesn't matter who gets the Vladimir, it was going to be the carry potential there, so I didn't mind who played that. I think it was a kind of an intuitive decision for us. And you guys did well with that very instinctual decision. And with the mid laner, Sohan and Teddy, and who's the better Vladimir? Of course, you being the best Vladimir, I'm sure. I mean, I can't really use Vladimir that much in mid lane, but I always give it off to top or mid ADC, but both are pretty well. And maybe Teddy's Rise. You gave the kind of the speed buff over to the Rise. I mean, he definitely does his part and does what he's supposed to do. And Teddy is definitely not shy about those kind of instances. He's just taking all the compliments to himself. It's been very fun. And now that you guys are, have gotten that another win, and Junior, I'm sure it's been the picks that have worked out for you guys today, and really consecutive losses on and on and on, and now you're starting to get a little bit of wins going. And from the bottom of the standings where we stand right now, it seems like Junior is trying to make a climb back, and of course emotionally, I'm sure you guys would have want to say something here. Grace, anything you want to say? Do you know who the next matchup is? It's a BBQ and MVP. Also, you want to talk to them about that, of how you want to play those matches here. Well, today's games, we prepare very hard for this one, and I think we want to repeat a performance like this that resembles a good performance like this, so we can hopefully find you guys back with a few more wins along the board. And hopefully, Jin can get used to this habit of winning. That haven't been the case before. See how Jin can continue this run going.
Thank you very much, Joel, for the interview translation. We're getting so much Jin Air recently, and for the first time, we got some grace tonight. 200 points with back-to-back MVPs, and that's going to be the 2-1 victory, this time in favor of Jin Air GreenWings. Last time it was back-to-back wins in the last 2 games for Kingzone. This time around, it was red side victories for Jin Air, and despite that, they're still able to hold on to second place, but potentially not for too much longer. Hanwha hot on their heels along with Genji and FLICKR Freaks, all at that 6-3.
And that's the thing, is they make themselves susceptible at second rather than being 1 series ahead in second place, and also very off the pace of Griffin now, who are 2 series clear but 2 to play.
Yeah.
The side of Griffin. Coming up next, our second match of the second round robin, MVP versus BBQ. Not a massive one in terms of the names, but a long-time rivalry between these two that MVP traditionally have held the wood over BBQ. But the problem for BBQ is they face back-to-back MVP, then Jin Air. If they don't win either of those, the 0-18 nightmare, it may not be 100% confirmed, but it becomes more likely.
Yeah, it is a real rough one. Guys, we've got about 20 minutes before that series is going to be upon us. But for now, take a quick break. We'll see you after. Coming up next, MVP, BBQ Olivers. 2018 League of Legends Champions Korea Summer Split.